This is where the fun begins. It's the section semifinals in 4-3A boys basketball, and it's a rematch between two teams who battled it out to a photo finish a year ago. The Mahtomedi Zephyrs and the St. Paul Johnson Governors, part of a stacked section 4-3A, three ranked teams in the semifinal round. Only one will go to state. Whoever wins this game will be one away from that coveted state tournament trip. Mike Beaton with you here at Mahtomedi for this Saturday matinee. And as we noted, this is quite the battle, but let's see how they got here. Columbia Heights knocking off St. Anthony Village. They'll play De La Salle later this evening. Mahtomedi and Johnson taking care of their quarterfinal opponents, although Mahtomedi, it took a little bit of doing to defeat Minneapolis Camden. St. Paul Johnson getting the win over Hill Murray. And for the second straight year and third in the last four, Johnson and Mahtomedi will meet in the section semifinal, with the winner one away from that coveted state tournament trip. We were here on Wednesday, and as we said, it took a little doing, but it doesn't take much to get Mark Graff going. He scored 21 points in the quarterfinal victory, 80-58 over Camden. Willie Roloffs also had a fantastic game. And as we watch these highlights, Mahtomedi will need big games from their dynamic duo. In particular, Johnson has the speed advantage, so for someone like Graff, as you see him score inside, outside, that versatility can pay big dividends. He will be one of the players to watch for Mahtomedi. Roloffs and Graff have carried the team all season. A big performance from those two will go a long way to giving Mahtomedi a chance at a section championship. But again, they'll have to watch out for the speed and pressure of Johnson. And one young man who can lead that pressure is Jermaine Curtis Thomas. You'll notice the stats are based on the games that were posted. Johnson historically doesn't emphasize stats, and that goes all the way back to time of Vern Simmons. They have a mentality of every game being the most important one of the season. So now that we've set the scene, we'll see it play out when we return. This is the Section 4-3A Boys Basketball Semifinal on SCC and NSPN.
Buckle up!
Nobody is more prepared for an emergency than Dogman.
With all your kung fu skills and your canine fortitude or whatnot.
But for the rest of us, a good plan goes a long way.
Come on, let's go!
So, whether it's an unexpected disaster or the world's most evilest cat bent on destroying all do-gooders,
Destroy all do-gooders!
you can help your family be ready for anything.
No time to waste. Will you get out of here?
Get started today at ready.gov/kids.
And we're seeing that scene play out right now. We're just underway here at Mahtomedi. Johnson won this matchup a year ago by a single point. Drive to the rim by Elijah Benapede, the junior, is offline. And there is the aforementioned Mark Graff. Taking it to the rack, the Hezi can't get it to go. Johnson looking to push. They weren't quite in sync, but they do get control of the rock. And that will allow them to run a set. Johnson again beating Mahtomedi by a single point in the section semifinal a year ago. The two teams flipping seeds this year. That's why we're at Mahtomedi. Corner three doesn't go down for Guarino Camp. Mahtomedi secures the rebound. Mark Graff brings it up. Roloff's the leading scorer for the Zephyrs, averaging about 22 a game. Mark Graff at 19. Bounce pass inside to Roloffs. He's getting hounded in the lane and coughs it up. Guarino Camp with the defensive intensity. Johnson picking up their 20th win of the season against Hill Murray in the quarterfinals. And there is Chachi Moore, straightaway three. It's offline. His given name is Colin Moore Jr., but he goes by Chachi, so that's what we'll call him. Chase Benning Swanson. Used up the dribble, goes back to Graf. Up to the key. Now roll-offs. Looking to go baseline. Nothing there. Cut off by Moore. Lots of boys basketball on NSPN. If you're watching this live on NSPN.TV, and of course, if you're watching this on SCC, we would like to welcome you as well. Mahtomedi coughs it up again. The inbound was disrupted, and Johnson, like we said, speed and pressure, they're going to be the two keys. That could determine success for the Governors. And as we've seen earlier this season on SCC and NSPN, Mahtomedi, they've got some talent and they have that strong foundation, but they've struggled against some of the quicker, faster-paced teams. As Johnson gets us started, draining the 15-footer is Elijah Benepi. Tartan comes to mind. Tartan will play St. Paul Central at 2 o'clock later today. Mahtomedi almost turned it over, but it was ruled a deflection, so it should be Mahtomedi ball. One official was saying deflection, the other was saying Johnson ball, but it will still be Zephyrs possession. 15:49 left in the first. Graf. Did a quick handoff with Roll-Offs. Now Roll-Offs has it again. Dumps it inside. Johnson with the slap and the takeaway. The Governors' defense forcing a lot of turnovers, but they cough it up themselves on the fast break attempt. Did not get the pass in sync. These two did not play each other in the regular season, and historically they haven't faced each other in the regular season. You get that sometimes with section rivals. But Johnson didn't shy away from a challenge, and Mahtomedi didn't back down either. Extra pass, and the layup. Graf to Russell. A frenetic pace to this one. Johnson, well, get this, this is the more unusual stats. They played Minnehaha Academy twice, one of the top teams in 2A. Lost to them by the exact same score, 85-71. They also played Orono. And now are taking on one of the top teams in 3A. And cleaning up the mess is Benepi. He gets the tip in. Quick 4 points for him. Again, the winner will get the winner of De La Salle Columbia Heights. De La Salle will likely get through, considering their success over Columbia Heights in the regular season. Blocking foul called on the Governors. There's Colin Moore. He's been with the Johnson program ever since I started broadcasting. Took over as head coach after Vern Simmons retired. Vern won a state championship back in 2010 with an undefeated Governors squad that beat the likes of Hopkins. And Jermaine Thomas Curtis got out to the key for the block on the three-point attempt. More of that choking defensive pressure, and Guarino Camp forces Mahtomedi to give it up. Johnson's defense trying to set the tone. Okay, it was last touch by Johnson. I stand corrected, but the Governor's causing fits. Jermaine Thomas Curtis swoops in to steal the inbound. Johnson located in the east side of St. Paul, right along Arcade. They've been around a long time. That was a tough drive in the lane for Johnson's Octavius Johnson. It will stay with the Governors. Moore Jr. to inbound. The fadeaway by Benepe, yes! Elijah Benepe, the junior, all 6 of Johnson's points. Mahtomedi swings it from right to left. Now they center up. Graff to Roloffs. Cut off by Moore Jr. No trouble, Roloffs will just shoot over him. And Willie Roloffs at 6'8" has that length to go over his coverage if needed. Moore attacks, draws the foul, will shoot 2. And as we said, with Johnson, they don't post their stats typically. That team dynamic has served them well, though. Think about the stability they've had in the coaching ranks, Vern Simmons, and then one of his understudies, Colin Moore, Sr., taking over. It's a group that plays hard. They may not make it to state every year, but they had a great run of success in the 2010s, including that 2010 championship, as Moore splits that trip at the free throw line. But they play it the right way. They're highly respectful of everybody. Mahtomedi going high-low. And Noah Carlson too strong. He was wide open too. That's a bucket you want to have. Johnson, tough drive. Picking it up is Camp. And a second chance for Johnson. Moore, thought about it. Resets, driving kick. Camp for 3. Off the heel. He picks up the high carom. Curtis Thomas sizing up his options. Moore Jr., bullseye. That looked pure as soon as it left his hands. 10-4, Johnson over Mahtomedi. Again, both teams were ranked in the final poll of the season. Mahtomedi calling timeout. 12:16 left in the first. Let's take a look at the huddles and that last 3. That was just a great read by Jermaine Thomas Curtis. And again, when Johnson has that speed, quickness, agility in their pocket, that does open up some possibilities. Mahtomedi, this astounds me, considering how long boys basketball has been a sport in Minnesota. They have only reached the state tournament twice, 1961 and 2019. And there is an experienced man who has attended plenty of state tournaments as a part of the coaching staff at St. Paul Johnson, Colin Moore. Again, they had that lengthy run of state tournament appearances in the 2010s, won it all in 2010, got to the championship in 2015, but they have not been back to the big dance since, so it has been a little while for Johnson and a date with the state tournament. We'll see if this year ends differently, as we see Mark Graff execute the pump fake to perfection. Great ATO play from Mahtomedi. And way too early to be hitting any panic buttons. Moore found his wingman, but Johnson can't knock down the three. Thomas Curtis has the ball slapped from his grip. Johnson keeping their starters on the floor for now, but it looks like we'll get their first substitution at the next whistle. Here's Graf. Around goes Mahtomedi. They dump it inside and let Willie Roloffs do the rest. Having that 6'8" forward who can work the floor and set up down low is a welcome asset. Camp into the lane, bounce pass, the fake. Moore fires, long, rebound Graf. Looking to go coast to coast and does. 6 in a row for the Zephyrs. We were the subject of some amusing commentary this week with boys hockey competing in the Class A state tournament again. Meanwhile, Octavius Johnson gets fouled on the take. And the reason for that conversation has to do with the mascot and the logo, which resembles more of a Trojan than a Zephyr, but a deeper dive revealed that the word Zephyr means a soft, gentle breeze, and I'm not sure how easy it is. I think it's more tricky to make a mascot out of wind. Mahtomedi tried to take the wind out of Johnson's sails. Unfortunately, they get called for the foul. Got a little too grabby with Kenny Turner. That's the second on Joey Wright. And something to keep an eye on. Thomas Curtis to Camp. Turner hounded, but fouled again. Moore to inbound. And getting the jump was Mark Graf. Zephyrs with a chance to take their first lead. That's Benning Swanson. Graf, Roloffs, the southpaw. Can't hit the three. Moore with the rebound. He's flying down court, wanted the alley-oop, but Turner is there for the rebound and muscles his way in for two. Making lemonade out of lemons. 9:30 to go in the first. Live coverage on NSPN and SEC. That will be a foul on Johnson. And there will be plenty more coverage, I think, on the television and social media airwaves. I see a couple of camera crews here, and we also have another photographer from Twin City Sports as Colin Moore Sr. looks on. We mentioned Colin, no stranger to postseason. Not just as a coach, but as a father. His daughter Haley made one. But right now, Willie Roloffs is all about making flushes. Moore looking for the answer, swatted away by Graf. Graf setting up a play. Baseline jumper. Off the rim, Turner with the rebound. Moore, the point guard, calling out another play. as we are even at 12. This is Camp. Try to go cross court. And to make those passes work, you have to be on point with those cuts, those moves. Because coaches and others will tell you the risk of cross-court passes and getting picked off. Now Johnson getting the jump on the lane, but Mahtomedi comes up with it. 3-ball corner pocket for Willie Roloffs. Both teams exhibiting their improvisational skills. This is A.J. Howard. 15-12, first lead of the game for Mahtomedi. Thomas Curtis, more inside to Turner, who gets held up, 7:49 left in the first. And if you're watching this on NSPN, again, we have lots of boys basketball section action today, going all the way through the night. Girls state tournament seeds also came out this morning. Turner, the kick out. Over to Caden Elfage. Johnson working it around. 9 on the shot clock. Turner, doubled. Puts it up. Good defense by Mahtomedi. That's how you attack those post players. Take away that low post. Make them shoot the jumper. Now the Zephyrs, who trailed 10-4, trying to add to this 11-2 run. The driving kick, 3-ball, off the rim. Battle for the board. Won by Thomas Curtis. The spin move, the pull-up, short. Rebound, Miles Flaherty. Zephyrs slowing it down. And now they work it around. Grab. Now the short corner jumper doesn't go down for Carlson, but an offensive rebound for Mahtomedi. On the shot clock. Carlson draws the blocking foul. That will bail out Mahtomedi to an extent, as they'll reset the shot clock to 20. The section final, if you're curious, will be next Thursday. High seed will host. De La Salle the 1, they'll play later tonight. Carlson, out to Benning Swanson. Looking to attack the lane, now kicks back out. The extra pass, Carlson with a couple of fakes, backs off, but time running out. Roloffs has to go. Doesn't touch rim. That's a situation where if I'm Carlson, I might let it fly. You don't want to be pulling off too many pump fakes with the shot clock winding down that put your team at a disadvantage. Johnson trying to get that motor going again. 3 off the rim. Benning Swanson with the rebound. Benning Swanson goes right, then left. Zips it. but Andrew Russell can't finish it. We may be at that turning point, that critical junction I often reference when I'm calling games, when both teams are locked in a stalemate. Here's the fadeaway by Benepi. And that goes off the rim as well. Joey Wright with the rebound. But when you're stuck at this score or whatever score, going several possessions without a bucket, whoever can break out of that slumber often finds themselves in a great spot. 3 rattles out from Wright. So who will break through? Who will uncover themselves and reclaim momentum? Benepi. The handoff. Tough drive by A.J. Howard. Doesn't produce a bucket. Graf in trouble. Johnson's trap gets to him. Just 4 minutes to go in the first. We have been locked at 15-12 for a good while. Like I said, in these playoff games, not all that different from the regular season. You go through these stretches where both teams are having a tough time finding rhythm, generating offense when you have a high caliber matchup like this. Can you survive that stretch? That is what determines a section and subsequently state champion. As Willie Roloff scoops up the steal after Johnson's pass was broken up. The high-low play. And again, Russell comes up empty. Elfage walked. As Colin Moore Sr. looks on. Johnson, few notable names coming from there. Louis Anderson, the late comedian and actor. Herb Brooks, you might remember him from that certain miracle run in 1980 as Graf. You'll remember him for that 3 if you're a Mahtomedi fan. And is that the bucket that unlocks the Zephyrs? Once again, we shall see. Johnson looking for the answer. That 3 goes in and out from A.J. Howard. It is now a 14-2 run for Mahtomedi after they trailed 10-4. Stemming from the timeout Keith Newman called. It's been a slow 14-2 run, but given the pace and flow of this game, a 6-point advantage could loom large. Foul on Johnson. And if you're curious about any notable names to come out of Mahtomedi, Mike Bauman and Sean Yelly, both professional baseball players with the San Francisco Giants. Willie Roloffs with another giant bucket. He's got 11 as Mahtomedi looks to take a giant leap forward in this 4-3A section semifinal. 20-12. It is now a 16-2 run with 2:32 remaining in the first. Roloffs with 11 points. It hasn't felt explosive when you examine and reflect on the trends and developments in this game, but Roloff's just doing the little things. As we noted, 4-3A, a stacked group among the semifinalists, 3 ranked teams You're seeing two of them right now. De La Salle will play Columbia Heights later. Totino Grace, the heavy favorite to win it all in 3A with last year's champion Alexandria classing up to 4A. So no matter who gets out of this section, unless Totino Grace suffers a shocking upset, it's going to boil down to one question. Can you beat the Eagles? And Totino Grace, with that coveted combination of talent and depth, will be a tough out. Johnson, that was a difficult pass to thread. Moore trying to find Thomas Curtis. And Thomas Curtis, as you saw, was trying to go behind his assignment. That makes it even more challenging to connect on those cuts. Those high-low passes to the baseline. Mahtomedi. Whoa, Thomas Curtis at the last moment races in for the rejection. Needed a moment to collect himself. Johnson playing 4-on-5. Moore missed the jumper and a foul on Johnson, it would appear. Yes. That's their last to give. And the second on Howard. Johnson mired in a lengthy scoring drought. They led 10-4, and they've only scored 2 points since then. And that was about 13 minutes ago. Thomas Curtis zipping down court. Johnson still looking for the bucket. They get it on the second chance play by A.J. Howard. Did Johnson need that? That is why it's always important to have a trailer. I usually talk about that in the context of uncontested fast breaks, but A.J. Howard demonstrating that you can sneak in there even against coverage. And that ends the scoring drought, which was described by the Minnesota High School Hoops social media feed. I'll get to that in a moment. Well, HS Hoops, hey man, you might have to update your assessment because Johnson will get their second chance at a three-point play. This time, Elijah Benepe cleaning up the mess. I was going to say that scoring drought was described as Johnson hasn't scored since Obama was in office. I don't know if it was that long, but that summary just went out the window. Benepe will try to complete the three-point play and does. So a 5-point sequence by the Governors, ending a 14-2 run. And no matter which side you're on, if you're trailing, you want to keep it within range. And Johnson taking a big step in that direction, but a foul before the inbound on Moore. And that will send Mahtomedi to the line with both teams out of fouls to give. This will be 1-1. Well, HS Hoops MN, I don't know who you are on Twitter/X, but I hope you're enjoying our coverage. Mark Graff shooting 1-1. Averaging 19.7 a game. But when you get to this stage, the stats mean something and they don't. It's all about winning the game in front of you. Graff missing the front end of a 1-1. That was Mahtomedi's first trip to the line. And Johnson could tie it if they want. Octavius Johnson needed a couple more inches in his height to catch that pass, but it happens to the best of us. And speaking of height, if you go way back, Sal Simmons played for Johnson. Not exactly one of the tallest figures, but he held his own. Bounce pass, Graf starts a swing. Now Roloffs pulls up. Halfway down, but not all the way. That was a great fake too, but that happens sometimes. Moore to Benepe. Elijah with 11. And Johnson returning with flair. Scoring 7 in a row after that 14-2 run by Mahtomedi. Roloffs. Starting another set. This is Flaherty. Back to Graf. Mahtomedi can't hold, as you can see. Carlson tried to sell a foul, it looked like. Here's a three. Bullseye! Mark Graf. Upping Mahtomedi's scoring graph. Johnson will hold for the last shot. Moore. Swings it out. This is Johnson. They got to get it off. They do. Almost. Reno Cam just missing. A lot of the threes have gone halfway down, but not all the way. We'll see if that changes in the second half. But we expected a high-stakes showdown. We're getting it as both teams trade runs throughout the first half. Mahtomedi leads 23-19 in the 4-3A boys basketball section semifinal on SEC and NSPN. Second half coming up.
Everyone has a ritual. That small thing we do to keep us focused.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game?
To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health.
Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health.
Find the resources you need to keep your mental health a priority.
Love your mind.
Everyone getting updates or checking their social media feeds, or who knows what they're scrolling through. But everyone attentive in this 4-3A boys basketball section semifinal. Mahtomedi leading St. Paul Johnson 23-19. A 16-2 run by the Zephyrs turned a 6-point deficit into an 8-point lead. Then Johnson scored 7 in a row. Mahtomedi got a 3 to end the first half. But overall, this game not playing outside the realm of expectations when you have a couple of ranked foes who did not play each other in the regular season. That adds to the test match as we go through our highlights. Elijah Benepe, the centerpiece for Johnson, 11 points. There you see one of his tip-ins. And a fadeaway. He would cool off for a little while Willie Roloffs would heat up. 11 first half points. Colin Moore, Chachi Moore, I should say. That's his only three-pointer. Both teams having a little bit of difficulty, although Mahtomedi getting some success from three-point land. Willie Roloffs and Mark Graf. The 1-2 punch. Delivering so far for the Zephyrs. Kenny Turner, his lone layup. And Willie Roloffs getting the slam. Then making lemonade out of lemons. Mark Graf says, I can hit threes too. Roloffs flexing his inside game after that. This is a big sequence for the Governors. They were trailing by 8. Got a couple of three-point plays, a 5-point sequence overall. And that big 3 by Mark Graf to end the first half. As we look at our halftime numbers and the free throws, Mahtomedi just had that one attempt. They missed the front end of a 1-and-1. And you can see the three-pointers and how they have afflicted Johnson. 1 of 9. We'll see if that changes in the second half. It reminds me of Minnesota's loss yesterday in the Big Ten women's quarterfinals with Ohio State. If you shoot well, you look good, especially from three-point range. If you don't, you can run into trouble. We'll see if Johnson can rectify their three-point situation in just a couple of minutes. This is the Section 4 3A boys basketball semifinal on SEC and ESPN.
Love is a lesson that doesn't end. It knows no conditions, so you better buckle in. Love keeps you on your toes. It never stops, only grows. Love isn't easy. It's a commitment, especially when they're being their most resistant. Love is being prepared for the journey ahead. Love doesn't let any concerns go unsaid. Love is finding the right seat so you can take a breath. But remember, love isn't lax. It always double checks. Check that your kids are in the right seat at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Love protects.
Second half about to start here at Mahtomedi on this Saturday matinee. Johnson and Mahtomedi separated by 4 points. Last year's meeting settled by a single point when Johnson defeated Mahtomedi. De La Salle would win the section final that year. The Zephyrs finishing at 23-3 in the regular season, and in doing so hit the 20-win mark for the first time in a couple of years. The 22-23 season was their last 20-win campaign. And their 3 losses, 2 to Tartan, the #1 team in 4A, and 1 to St. Thomas Academy. Here's Graff, 3-ball, offline. Again, the 3-pointers, part of the story right now. Johnson just the 1 from Colin Moore. They had a few that were halfway down, so they're not exactly misfiring. They're just not getting that English. Dead ball rebound to Johnson. And it's tough to hang in there when you can't get points on the board as easily as you want. Thomas Curtis, what a move! Draws the foul. He got the attention of the Johnson bench and the fans who made the trek from St. Paul, capital city. Almost had an ankle breaker highlight reel on Noah Carlson, but he'll have a chance to score at the line. And again for Johnson, some of the higher ranked teams they faced this season gave them a little trouble. They did pick up a win over Mankato East in the second game of the year, and that is the first point scored for Thomas Curtis, but it's just a split. Johnson 3 of 6 at the line by my count. Mahtomedi 0 for 1. They had that front end of a 1-and-1 come up empty, and that's it. Here's Roloffs. Zips it to Carlson. The number of misfires down low for Mahtomedi has to be frustrating. Johnson with the takeaway. Moore, the lob! Elevation and the slam for Thomas Curtis. And that wakes up the Johnson faithful. 23-22. That looks slick. You want to know what else looks slick? Mark Graff's three-point stroke, his third triple. And that's a big momentum killer for the Zephyrs after Johnson fired up the crowd, and then a slip up leads to a turnover. Graf hands it off to Benning Swanson. Now Graf again. Pass tipped. Johnson rotates. And drawing the offensive foul is Thomas Curtis. One thing with Johnson, they were able to get some early pressure on Mahtomedi, and their ability to rotate helping them out with their defensive coverage. Noah Carlson, there you saw the push off. Looked like an offensive foul to me. Of course, we all know I'm not the arbiter of those decisions. Four-point game. Thomas Curtis backs up, regroups. He gets denied. And the mid-range jumper for Johnson doesn't go down. Noah Carlson, he's 6'6". Mahtomedi does have some height advantage with roll-offs and Carlson. Graf coughs it up. And this was the Achilles heel early on for Mahtomedi, and something they'll have to watch out for if they do win this game. I'm not saying it's over by any means, but those unforced errors, they've had a few of those sloppy turnovers. And De La Salle, the number 2 team in 3A, you can't mess around with them. Drive and free throws coming for A.J. Howard. So Johnson starting to attack a little more frequently and get to the line. That is one way to help get some points, and when those threes aren't falling, that driving game can go a long way. But Johnson struggling to convert efficiently. Elsewhere in 3-3A, Minneapolis South with a 3-point lead over Simley. And South St. Paul leading by 9 over St. Thomas Academy. 34-31, 39-30 as of the last updates. Empty possession at the free throw line for the Governors. They're now 3 of 8. Could start to add up. Again, Johnson, it seems like they're one step away from being in front, whether it's the three-point shooting or the free throw shooting. Plenty of time, though. Nobody's won this yet. The turnaround, baseline look does not go down for roll-offs. Moore barrels his way in and gets the bounce. I would not have anywhere close to the courage that Moore does, but that's why I'm here, and he's out there. Mahtomedi looking for the interior penetration. Johnson covering up the lane. Back out they go. Graf to Carlson, fakes. 3 ball, right misfires. Camp. What will he do? Got tripped up. Looked like he tried to change his mind at the last moment. Graf blocked by Benepi. And that's another circumstance where it's a lot easier to bring it up when you're here. But oftentimes, if you're not sure, I'd say back off, give your team a chance to set up, take that extra moment. Don't rush yourself into a treacherous situation. But a 2-point game, anything can happen. Here's the catch and shoot 3 for Graf. It's off the front iron. Benepi to Thomas Curtis. Extra pass to Benepi. And Johnson ties it up. Thomas Curtis, he has an elusive streak about him. Timeout, Mahtomedi. 26 all. This is where the fun begins. That's how I open the game. And why do I say that? Oftentimes, you get some upsets once in a while in the quarterfinals in the larger classes, but when you get to the semis, most of the time you have these grueling, compelling, captivating battles. And that's because everyone who makes it to the semifinal had to win a game to get here. So you typically weed out the contenders from the rest of the field. You have two top 10 teams in a section that has 3 of them. It gives you some good basketball. Benepi, the leading man for Johnson, 13 points. And again, their philosophy, that's one reason they don't have full season stats. They don't worry about who the superstar is. That 32-0 team didn't have players on a first name basis like Jalen Suggs, who paid a visit last night with Orlando in town. Minnehaha girls basketball back to the state tournament after defeating St. Croix Lutheran. But Jalen Suggs, Chet Holmgren, Tyus Jones, we all know them on a first name basis. You may not remember that 2009-2010 Johnson team, but they play strong team ball. And that philosophy has worked wonders over the years. They'll have a chance to take the lead after Thomas Curtis snatched another steal. Thomas Curtis lets it fly, it's offline. Rebound, Joey Wright. Another scramble. Whoever wins this one will have earned it. 3 is short, and the rebound ricochets to Benepi. Whether they're high-scoring shootouts or defensive duels, these games always make me nervous, and I've got nothing at stake. Because I know, and all you viewers know, how much work, how much this means to everybody. Moore didn't see a lane, finds a helper, and A.J. Howard. It's a long 2, but you'll take points any way you can get them. Moore with the dime, Howard with his second field goal. Graf, the elbow J, yes! 15 for Graf. Graf and roll-offs accounting for 26 of Mahtomedi's 28 points. That probably doesn't surprise you. I suspected those two would have to step up big for Mahtomedi to have a chance at winning. Thomas Curtis for 3. No. Moore fires. Can't get the bank. Howard with the O-board. Looking for the layup. No. Benepi got it. The 4th time is the charm as Benepi goes up to 15, and he elicits a raucous applause from the Johnson fan base. Benepi, he's the workhorse. The junior, he's got some spunk. This game far from done. Graf into the lane. Blocking foul before the handoff. While we've got a moment, some other score updates coming in. Prior Lake leading Chanhassen 43-31. That's over in 2-4A. And Chaska leading Eden Prairie 29-23 in the other 2-4A semifinal. Graf doubled. Finds the open man. 3 ball. Short. Kenny Turner with the rebound. Here comes Howard with the scoop, but a little too strong. Graf in trouble again. Mahtomedi able to reset. Roll-offs. Mishandled the dribble, and then a foul from behind on Carlson. That will be his third. And looking at the foul tally with 10:24 left in the second, Carlson and Russell with 3 from Mahtomedi. On the Johnson side, A.J. Howard with 3. A.J. comes off the bench, but still something to keep an eye on as we near the finish. The second semifinal in 4-3 will take place at 5 o'clock, so whoever wins will probably head over to De La Salle after this game. Mahtomedi had the rebound and just threw it away inexplicably. The shot clock was reset incorrectly, so they get it to 31. It did not start, that's what happened. Guarino Camp gets on the board as he slithered his way behind the coverage in the lane. That was a stealthy move. Right. Mahtomedi almost got themselves clogged up. Right again. Now Graf. Johnson with a 4-point lead. Underneath goes Mahtomedi. Graf looking for the foul. He'll get it. Largest lead for either side has been 8. Graf drawing the foul. If you're watching this on SCC, depending on how the sections go, you may see us one more time. Tartan will play St. Paul Central in about an hour from now as Graf knocks down the front end. If Tartan beats St. Paul Central, they would host the 4-4A section finals since they are the 1 seed and the number 1 team in Class 4A. If Mahtomedi wins, they would have to wait to see what De La Salle and Columbia Heights turns out. Obviously, De La Salle would host if they win since they're the 1 seed. 32-30, now Mahtomedi in transition. It's Graf who made the free throws and who now makes the layup. A quick 4 for Mark Graf. He had 21 in the quarterfinals. He has 19 here. Turner. Oh my goodness! Kenny willed his way through that double team. Section playoffs not for the feeble-minded. Backdoor play from Mahtomedi, the hezi and the reverse by Chase Benning Swanson. He's on the board. Another tie, 34-34 with 8:36 to go. Inside, Turner comes up with it. Threw up a wild shot. Mahtomedi will take over. Mahtomedi had that 16-2 run to go up 2012. Johnson scored 7 in a row, and this second half defined by a back-and-forth seesaw affair. Another cup for Graf, another layup. Mahtomedi retakes the lead. 6 in a row from Mark Graf. Thomas Curtis draws the foul. He'll shoot 2. But this is one of Johnson's trouble spots so far. Again, 3 of 8 in this game. And that is the 4th on Carlson. That's an even bigger development. As you see another look There was some contact. Maybe not much, but enough to warrant the foul. Whoever wins will play next Thursday. You can see it live on NSPN. And again, where SEC goes will depend on how the semifinals play out, but we hopefully will see you at one of our sites next Thursday for a section championship. Thomas Curtis drains the free throws, only 5 points. But again, Johnson doesn't have that belief in relying on a 20, 30-point score. There's more than one way to win this game. However, Elijah Benepi, who has been the playmaker, getting called for the foul, just his first, with 7:45 to go in the second. And that was pretty clear. Graf, catch and shoot. Off the rim, Benepi with the rebound. Moore gets it back after taking a look with Howard. Now we'll call the play. His big sister got to play in a state tournament several years ago. Haley Moore with Cretin-Durham Hall. Here comes Camp. Roloff's cut him off. And Camp giving up a few inches. Now Graf has to get out of trouble. Oh, Mahtomedi. I thought they would have had an open layup, but Benning Swanson passed back, and then it pinballs around. Missed opportunity for the Zephyrs. A foul and free throws for Thomas Curtis. And that's the last to give for the Zephyrs. It's just the first on Benning Swanson, but Johnson will go to the free throw line the rest of the way. But the struggles persist as we take another look. Mahtomedi 4 of 5, if you're curious, at the line, if it comes down to a matter of free throws. An empty possession for Thomas Curtis. Johnson 5 of 12. How many times have I said free throws can matter? You just never know when. We'll see if that comes into play here, as Roloff draws the foul on Benepi. Mahtomedi will have a chance to score a couple at the line. Roloff gets the front end to drop. As the Zephyrs look to softly, gently breeze in. Another point at the line. Again, they have been the stronger team from the charity stripe. Roloff makes both. Mahtomedi now 6 of 7. Johnson 5 of 12. Johnson fakes the three. Camp, side fade, lets it fly. Yes! That is just the second three-pointer converted by the Governors as they try to bring the press. Johnson ball. I wasn't sure because Moore was chasing after the loose ball. But the officials say he didn't touch it. Like we said, Johnson's speed and pressure working in their favor. That is their edge. Here comes Moore. His coverage stayed with them. Andrew Russell getting the tip. Another foul on Johnson with 6:09 to go. And they will give Mahtomedi the shooting motion. So Graf has a chance to score 2 more at the line, where Mahtomedi has thrived. Again, plenty more section games on NSPN throughout the day. As Mark Graf coming up clutch for his team. The 6'2" senior. This is his last ride, no matter what happens. Mahtomedi now 8 of 9 at the line, and Mark Graf with 23 of Mahtomedi's 40. More deep three, a little too deep there. Are we headed for another photo finish, just like a year ago? It's shaping up that way. Carlson. To Russell, back to Carlson. Graf, he's a threat no matter where he is, so is Roloffs. Lunging in and getting the floater. That's just his first field goal of the second half, but it could be a big one. Another defensive duel. Howard into the lane, off the window and in. Johnson had several timeouts in their pocket. Colin Moore Sr. will use one. 42-41, 5:07 to go in this tussle of contrasting styles. Mahtomedi getting it done at the free throw line and utilizing their length at times. Johnson battling back with their agility and defensive harassment. Mark Graf with 23 points as we look at the last play by Howard. He has 6. Benepe leading the Governors with 15. Midway through the second half, Chaska leading Eden Prairie 36-29. Mahtomedi again out of fouls to give. Johnson with 1 left as we return to action. Roll-offs. Missing from short range and a foul on the Zephyrs. In terms of free throw shooting, it's not the worst possible outcome. But in terms of the foul tally, it's not good. Not for Andrew Russell. He's tagged with his 4th. He and Carlson both on the floor, and Keith Newman probably not going to chance taking him out right now. Octavius Johnson has not scored in this game. A chance to change that here. Keith Newman looking on. A lot of talented teams coming through Mahtomedi over the years, but only 2 state tournament appearances in school history. Johnson knocks down both for Johnson, and that gives the Governors a 1-point lead. Graf races down, looking for the scoop, doesn't get it. Johnson flooring it. More free throws coming. Caden Elphage with the quick attack down court. That's the 3rd on Wright. Johnson, again, has not reached a state tournament since 2015 when they made the championship. Fell to De La Salle that year, part of that unprecedented run of consecutive state titles. 6 in a row, 7 out of 8 years. Johnson hoping to get back to the big dance. Elfage splits. Johnson staying at that 50% clip at the line, but they lead by 2, 44-42. Mahtomedi doing that swing. Straightaway 3 is there! Joey Wright is excited, to say the least. Elbow J, short. And who is the foul on? It looks like it's on Mahtomedi. And that's the 5th for Noah Carlson. Loose ball foul. Carlson is done. And he'll leave the game without scoring a single point. Had a couple of high-low transition plays that didn't work out. But Johnson's free throw shooting hasn't worked out that well, but offensive rebounding has been a lifeline for them. But then they cough it up. Big possession here. All of them are big now. Johnson still has 1 foul to give. Both teams with 3 timeouts remaining. Wright, that last 3 was his first bucket of the entire game. Looking for his second, maybe? No, he'll go to roll-offs. Back out to Wright. Fires the long 2, short. Catching the rebound in stride is Johnson. Attacks again, no. Zephyrs will take a timeout with 3:03 to go. Big weekend again in high school winter sports. Girls basketball state tournament seeds came out this morning. If you're curious, the 1 seeds in each class: Mount Iron in A, Providence Academy 2A, Stewartville in 3A after Orono was defeated by Benilde St. Margaret's 2 days ago, and Hopkins in 4A. 3A might be the most open field there. And Class A is always unpredictable. Here's a look at the bracket. De La Salle, Columbia Heights, they play tonight at 5 o'clock. So whoever wins this game, as I said, will probably make a trek to the island. At least the coaches will head there. Over the last few years, we've seen more of these staggered section games to give officials enough time to go from one side to another, and having the high seed host also expanded the number of venues. Up through the 2010s, the semis and finals were typically held at neutral site locations. You would still need officials, of course, but you could stagger them back to back. It's a different look, but I don't think anyone cares where they play as long as they keep going. Under 3 to go. Mahtomedi nearly threw it away. And a traveling call on Mark Graff. He was shuffling his feet right in front of me. And he might have also straddled the baseline. Either way, it's a turnover, and I'm going to have to stand up now because the student section for Mahtomedi is upright. And I need to be able to see in this one-point affair. 2:33 to go. Every possession means so much now. The turnaround won't go down for Benepi. Mahtomedi just 3 losses this year. 2 of them to the #1 team in 4A. Roll-offs through traffic. Gets it to go. 3-point game. Johnson once again looking for the quick answer. This time, Kenny Turner delivers. Timeout, Johnson. Johnson needed the section rounds to get to 20 wins a year ago, falling to De La Salle. Mahtomedi, the biggest question mark, if the Zephyrs advance, how would they handle De La Salle? They do have the win over Orono, but up until the semifinal, no ranked teams in their non-conference schedule as we look at the last couple of buckets from Roloffs and Turner. And then they had that loss to St. Thomas Academy, so you do wonder if Mahtomedi will have enough preparation to take on, in all likelihood, De La Salle. And I say that because De La Salle won their conference games with Columbia Heights by wide margins. On the Johnson side, they beat Mankato East in the second game of the year. And a game that was originally scheduled for the boys tip-off classic, but that got canceled, as most of you know. That was their biggest win. As everyone looks on. .159 left. 1-point game. Both teams with 2 timeouts left. Johnson still has a foul to give. Mahtomedi on the run. They'll have to reset, but plenty of time. Roll-offs. Out of the wing. Again, Carlson fouled out. Graff back to roll-offs. Extra pass. Everyone's scrapping for it. And Andrew Russell emerges from the trees. Those hustle plays, so valuable as time winds down. Howard can't get it. Offensive rebound. Camp looking for an opening, doesn't see one, draws the foul, and will shoot 2 with 1:02 left. Johnson in the double bonus. That's the 3rd on roll-offs. As Johnson gets a chance to score with the clock stopped. And this is where the shot clock comes into play, as most of you know by now, as we look at the last foul. Because Mahtomedi can't hold. Johnson can play defense. As Camp makes both. 1-point game again. Johnson can play for a stop. They still have a foul to give as well. (49-48), just like last year. Another basketball equivalent of the pitcher's duel. Who will get the win? We'll find out. 8 on the shot clock. Wright looking for somewhere to go and loses the ball. Here comes Moore. Too strong. Howard blocked, gets it again. Now Johnson has to foul. We've seen Johnson try to floor it. And in a situation like that, I know you want the quick score, but sometimes resetting can help you out too, because they had time. I know a bucket would give you the lead, but when you have that much traffic down low, it does make the task more difficult to complete. So Johnson used up their last foul to give. On Howard, it's his fourth. But here's the problem for Johnson. Mahtomedi, they missed their first free throw on the front end of a 1-and-1. They have not missed a free throw since. 8 straight makes. But Mahtomedi has to be aware of Johnson's defensive chokehold. On more than a few occasions, they leap on unsuspecting ball handlers, and a turnover here, they can get down court in a hurry. The winner will play next Thursday. Their opponent, we'll find out later tonight. Mahtomedi ball. Johnson holds the arrow if we have a tie-up. 17 seconds. Here comes Johnson with the press. If they don't get the turnover, there's the foul. It's on Howard, and that will be his 5th. So Howard will exit the game, collecting 6 points. More importantly, Graf is at the line. And he'll be the headliner with 23 points if Mahtomedi wins. But how about that second chance putback by Andrew Russell a moment ago? That, to me, could be just as key. And Russell with only 4 points. But he may have the most important ones, as Graf has one more free throw to come. Money. Johnson will need a 3 to tie. And with 9.7 seconds, Johnson getting the timeout call. Both teams with 1 remaining. Now you get into the foul up 3 scenario, and that's what Mahtomedi was trying to do. I saw a similar strategy executed by Woodbury last Saturday in their section semifinal victory over Roseville. Woodbury had a 3-point lead, and both teams had a bunch of fouls to give in that second half. It was a clean defensive effort. Mahtomedi knows if they can get a foul call, Johnson shakier at the free throw line. Now the Zephyrs do have 10 fouls, so it's 2 free throws automatically. But if you play the foul and chase game, usually I talk about it in terms of the trailing team. It could be advantageous for the leading team to foul right away. Andrew Russell has to be careful, though, because if Mahtomedi goes that route, fouling up 3, he has 4. Roloffs and Wright have 3. 9.7 on the clock. Johnson needs a 3 to tie. They've only hit 2 of them in this game. Struggled from long range in the first half, 1 of 9. They haven't gone to the 3 ball as much in the second. Governors with 1 timeout left, they still hold the arrow. That's a quick 3, and that's short. Mahtomedi will hang on to the ball. Oh, the foul with 1 second left, but it's not going to matter. Moore found Caden Elfage. Caden knew he had to get it up right away before Mahtomedi would have a chance to foul. Didn't go in. And the Zephyrs will book a ticket to the section final. Mark Graff, Mr. Clutch. And the Zephyrs, after missing their first attempt at the free throw line, hit every single free throw. 12 in a row, and Mahtomedi wins this round, 53-48. Mark Graff, 27 points, including the last 6 in a row at the free throw line. Willie Roloff's 17 points. Elijah Benepe leading Johnson with 15, but it was Mahtomedi's free throw shooting that played a big part in this win. Johnson 10 of 19, and we spoke of the struggles from three-point range. Both teams certainly deserve to win, but Mahtomedi made more of those plays in the closing stages. And again, Andrew Russell just 4 points, but that big putback late helped the Zephyrs get just enough of a cushion to hold off the Governors. Again, the big question for Mahtomedi, not a lot of ranked teams in their schedule, even though they are the number 4 team in 3A. They hold off a fellow ranked team in Johnson. And barring something astounding, will likely have to test their mettle again with De La Salle. But they will know for sure later tonight. So you look at Andrew Russell. As we look back on this one, Willie Roloffs and Mark Graff teaming up in the first half for the Zephyrs, accounting for 21 of their points. They were able to hit a few more threes early. Johnson stayed with them, trailed by 8, then scored 7 in a row in a game where neither side led by more than 8. And there's Moore hooking up with Thomas Curtis. Thomas Curtis, his high school career coming to an end, but Chachi Moore will have another year of dropping dimes, including that one to A.J. Howard. But Mark Graff, as I noted before, Mr. Clutch. Kenny Turner getting 2 of his 6 in what is his final game as a high school athlete. There's the big 3 from Willie Roloffs, who can score inside and out, as we've seen throughout the season. And there's the big putback by Andrew Russell. As we look at the final tally, Johnson 2 of 16 from three-point range and 10 of 19 at the free throw line. On the other end, Mahtomedi 5 of 13, 38% isn't eye-popping, but you look at all the points Mahtomedi picked up and the free throw stat, 12 of 13. You can't do much better than that. So the Zephyrs will have a chance to play for the section championship. Again, they have not reached a state tournament since 2019. It will likely be a tall task to end that drought if De La Salle does advance as expected. But all you need is a seat at the table, and Mahtomedi will keep their reservation intact through next week. And there's the updated bracket. Again, De La Salle and Columbia Heights will play later this evening. We'll have a lot more section basketball coverage live on NSPN. And on the SEC side, if you're watching on one of our channels, where we go will depend on how everything shakes out later today. Tartan will play St. Paul Central in about half an hour. And if they advance, you might see us there. Depending on what happens with De La Salle or Columbia Heights, maybe you'll see us at Mahtomedi. Who knows? But it was an epic battle, just like a year ago. Mahtomedi coming out on top this time after losing to Johnson by a point last year. The Zephyrs win 53-48 and book a ticket to the 4-3A section finals. We invite you to stay with us if you're watching on NSPN for more section basketball coverage. If you're watching on SEC, this is Mike Beaton thanking you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.